Hey guys, welcome into this episode of The Dish. I'm your host, Rachel Holt. If you've missed the MLB since the Cubs won the World Series, well, we get it, but the 2016 winter meeting should help cure your baseball blues. All 30 teams head to Maryland for 4 days, starting December 4th. There'll be lots of trade rumors and buzz, so we want to catch you up on everything you need to know for the Red Sox and around the league. Joined now by Darren Hartwell with a look at this year's top free agents. And Darren, a guy at the top of the list is Edwin Encarnacion. What are you hearing about where this guy will land?
Yeah, well, a lot of people thought he might be David Ortiz's replacement in Boston, but I actually think he stays with the Blue Jays. I just think he's too valuable for this franchise. He had a huge year last year. I think the Blue Jays have a lot of free agents that are going to leave town, but I think he's the guy, the big guy who stays.
Another guy that people are looking at to maybe be Big Poppy's replacement is Joey Bats. Do you think the chances of him coming to Boston are pretty good?
I think it's possible, but I don't think he's going to stay in Toronto. I actually see the Yankees, the Red Sox rival, getting him. He just seems like a kind of a Yankees guy. He's getting to the tail end of his career, but still has plenty of power in that bat. Mark Teixeira just retired, so they could use kind of a DH guy.
What are you hearing about Justin Turner?
The Cardinals are in the mix for Justin Turner. They look like one of the favorites, but I actually think he stays with the Dodgers. He's a guy who hit 27 home runs last year as a third baseman. That's pretty valuable. He played a huge role in their playoff push last year, so I think he stays put.
And lastly, Dexter Fowler helped the Chicago Cubs win their first World Series since 1908. Where does he end up this year?
Yeah, I think the Cardinals will lose out on Turner, but I think they'll get Fowler. They definitely need a center fielder. Randall Grichuk hit .240 for them last season, so Fowler would be a perfect guy to kind of fill that leadoff role and play center field. So I see Fowler going to the division rivals there.
Even before we switch from diapers to cartoon skivvies, we're told to dream big. For some, that advice falls by the wayside. For others, it becomes the crux of all future decision-making. We fall into the second group here at NESN.com. So with the MLB offseason in full swing, let's shoot for the stars, quite literally in fact, and consider 3 blockbuster trades we'd love to see happen. First, how about shipping Chris Sale from one side of Chicago to the other? ESPN's Buster Olney recently reported that the White Sox told the Cubs they won't deal with them, and Cubs general manager Jed Hoyer basically confirmed that a trade between the Windy City franchises is unlikely. But the best trades are the ones that nobody sees coming. Speaking of getting weird, things certainly took a turn for the worst on Twitter recently when Kate Upton criticized voters after Rick Porcello edged out our man, Justin Verlander, for the American League Cy Young Award. Hey, but here's an idea. How about the two pitchers go toe-to-toe for the award again this year? On the same team. In Boston, perhaps? Finally, the Dodgers are in a position where they might need to get creative financially. They also could use another experienced starter, who couldn't really, and a third baseman if Justin Turner walks in free agency. I mean, we're just spitballing here, but it might be worth it for the Dodgers president of baseball operations, Andrew Friedman, to reach out to the Rays about the availability of Chris Archer and Evan Longoria. Friedman used to be the Rays GM, and there's a case to be made for Tampa Bay making both players available this offseason. Then again, we're just dreaming big here.
I'm joined now by Mike Cole for Free Agent Boom or Bust. And Mike, we're seeing something a little different this year where there's a number of relievers who are expected to get some big money. So for you, who is a closer that's worth the big cash?
Yeah, it's a very good offseason to be a reliever, especially after we saw in the playoffs with how relievers were used. And Aroldis Chapman seems to be the consensus number one, but a guy I'd look at would probably be Mark Melancon. He's a little bit older, his stuff isn't as good, numbers aren't as good, but I think he's going to be a little bit cheaper. I don't know, unless you're maybe the Yankees, if you want to sit there and spend 5 years to $90 to $100 million even on a reliever, even if it's as good as Aroldis Chapman, even if you know that commodity like the Yankees do with Chapman. With Melancon, we've seen a revitalization of his career since he was in Pittsburgh. Now he's out in the market. He's going to cash in, but not to the extent that Chapman or even Kenley Jansen will. So I think Melancon is the best bargain of the 3, but I think you're overpaying for any of them.
As far as the starting pitching market goes, let's just be honest, it's really weak this year. Is there any guy who may be at the top of the list?
Well, I'd like to enter the market myself because I think even I would get a little bit of coin. But I look at Rich Hill as probably the guy at the top of the list. But even with Rich Hill, there's question marks. This is a guy who hasn't pitched more than 195 innings since 2007. Got injury concerns. It'd be 37 on opening day. I look at a guy like Ivan Nova as maybe a bargain, if you want to call it that. He's still going to get overpaid because of the reasons you mentioned. But I just look at him. He's a guy who, after he was traded to Pittsburgh last year, really kind of came on. And if you give him a good defense, he's a sinker ball pitcher. He's going to get guys out. Nobody's going to sign him to be a number 1 or number 2, but he's a good back end option for a contending team that's looking to kind of add a little starting pitching depth.
The Red Sox were much improved in 2016, but they still have plenty of shopping to do this offseason. Boston's first stop will be to the designated hitter aisle, where they'll have to somehow replace the retired David Ortiz, who turned in another 30-plus home run, 100-plus RBI season. There are some good options on the shelves, like Edwin Encarnacion and Carlos Beltran, but they won't come cheap. The Red Sox also could use an ingredient they already have by moving Hanley Ramirez to DH and picking up a first baseman instead. The next item on the list calls for a back-end starter. The Red Sox's rotation blended well in 2016, but there are some question marks behind Rick Porcello and David Price. A guy like Rich Hill or Ivan Nova really could spice up Boston's starting 5. The Red Sox need a dish to complement their rotation too, so that's why they should beef up their bullpen. Koji Uehara, Junichi Tazawa, and Brad Ziegler all are free agents, and Boston needs to catch up with the power arm trend in Major League Baseball.
All right, stop me if you've heard this before. The Red Sox need to replace David Ortiz's production this year. That's why we're going to whip out our phones and go right for the Red Sox matchmaking app. There's a couple of guys, a few guys who might fit the bill. They might be able to replace the production lost by David Ortiz, who just retired. The first possibility is a popular one amongst many Red Sox fans, and it's Edwin Encarnacion. This guy is a stud, just flat out can rake, has done it at Fenway Park in recent years as well. The thought of him just feasting on the Green Monster game after game is just, it's tantalizing to say the least. But you know what? I'm going to swipe left on him because he is turning 34 years old before opening day. So there's the age factor. You're also got to consider that he's probably going to land a 4 or 5 year deal. It all adds up to me, great, but not at the price. So I'm going to swipe left. He's a little too, high maintenance in the matchmaking world, if you will. The second option, his teammate, Jose Bautista. He's another one. You look at what he's done at Fenway Park, you look at what he's done in the American League East, and you can't help but be a little bit enamored by him. But I'm also going to swipe left on Bautista. He's also a little older. And he's also a guy that I'm not sure I want to add into the mix. He's a polarizing figure, and the Red Sox have a pretty good thing going chemistry-wise. So I'm swiping left and saying no to Bautista, although I do love him as a player. The third option, this is a guy Red Sox fans are familiar with, and boy is he beautiful, Mike Napoli. He does it all. Great clubhouse guy, can perform well, provides you in the clutch, as Red Sox fans saw in 2013 on that World Series run. So you just know this guy would be a great fit. But at the same time, he also might command a contract a little out of the Red Sox price range, so I'm going to swipe left on him as well. I know, I'm a picky guy apparently when it comes to replacing David Ortiz. Hey, but consider who we're replacing him. So the fourth option, oh man, look at this guy, Carlos Beltran. He's old, just like older than the other guys. He's turning 40 before opening day, but I'm swiping right. I'm digging this guy if I'm the Red Sox, and that's because they're probably going to get him on the cheap. 1 year deal should be able to get it done. If you got to overpay for the 1 year, so be it. That's not going to hurt you in the long term. I realize he tailed off down the stretch in 2016, but great numbers across the board overall. He's still got it, just like Ortiz still had it in his age 40 season. I'm taking Carlos Beltran. I'm swiping right. Bring him into the Red Sox on a 1 year deal. It's a match made in heaven.
Thanks for checking out this episode. As all the MLB trade rumors either become a truth or a fib, we'll be keeping you up to date with the very latest, so keep it locked on NESN.com.